people.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. This is Red Pill. I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way, 'cause I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter. The tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters. Every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who's up in the front with a tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats. I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. And I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastening. See, maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And God, I wish that I could tell myself nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could try fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. I wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. I'm trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening. Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines. Couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. And that's Red Pill.
Who are these people?
This is called Jett and the Return of the Cursed Medallion.
It's very much a Hardy Boys type of title to me.
Carved upon a marble altar, somewhere in a lab, are runes that match an amulet upon an onyx slab. Doctor in a white coat, guards in olive drab. Kissinger, unconscious, but as Providence would have, when the doctor stands beside him and he holds out the medallion, unconsciously, instinctively, he reaches up and grabs. Deep inside a black site that is right beneath our streets, the sacrifice was made by which they demonized our speech. The roots that fed the tree of life decayed beneath our feet, and its sap was a suspension for a small medallion piece. As the doctor starts to sway a bit, he takes the vial and places it inside of Cheney's heart that it might never cease to beat. And I wish it wasn't so, but no, the final piece to mention is the one that fueled our overlord's unholiest ascension, that affords him zero comment on the char and the distension on the bodies in Lahaina, or the growing sickly stench of every Black Rock vulture gathered for what Biden paid as rent on the medallion shard they gave him on the eve of the convention. He'd seen its strength extend the life of all his favorite vermin, and the peace that he inherited had come from Father Thurmond, another artifact he had been gifted by the Germans, to see one's will made manifest, one's destiny determined. A note attached read all our best, Werner, Fritz, and Hermann. May you marinate in Wehrmacht that ferments behind the curtains. Now here we are today, and Biden keeps it on his person, if Biden's what you'd even call a person. The curse is something ancient. It's a raw abortifacient that they shoveled down the throats of those who built and birthed a nation. It is fused into those corpses, funding war on all occasions, and it's all that's keeping Feinstein from a state of vegetation. It is carried by the Senate doctors, whispered by the nurses. It's a perk to keep you perky for your centuries of service. It's the concentrated evil that's been powering our purges, coaxing every coup along, the dogs and drones and dirges. The nations we have raped because they would not consent to purchase. It pries our leaders' eyes awake and drives our country's urges to the darkest point where human hope and human truth converges. So look in Biden's eyes and see the rush on which he surges is the same that lit the flame that burned your churches. And those flames have had their day to see the vessels burned away, but the medallion unscathed always emerges. For as election season licks its lips and smells its purpose, there at once appears a motorcade of hearses. The calling of the pit like a liturgical insurgent skinning off a sermon from the verses. He clutches a medallion of which he is just a servant, falling down a path with no divergence. Now some people wonder loudly just how low a man can go. Well, somewhere in a lab they've logged effects of pure immersion. How long can someone lay upon that ancient onyx slab before rising up a wholly different person? How blackened can one be within the ink of human greed before their voters start to see a different version? How corrupted from within before you see it in their skin? How blighted till it rises to the surface? Till it bleeds into your eyes, or you stand from time to time staring off into the press like they were comets in the skies? How long until your arteries start clogging up with flies? How long till child labor phantoms haunt you in the night? How long has the medallion been deciding who survives? And how long till it demands a higher price? That's a wrap.
Who are these people?
Read my lips. Brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are calling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance, and all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. I'll pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted out their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, because there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. And let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey. Cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment.
It feels weird to not end a song and say, and that's the great experiment. And when I try not to, I just have to all the more.
And that's the great experiment.
Who are these people?
This is Sunday Morning 40. We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. You said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. See, Nancy's gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of those dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family, slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch, and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks, and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward in 40 Sunday mornings, fade 250,000 people in its wake, and a cruise ship sailed today. So motherfucker, don't shine a light in my face. No. Wait. We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. You said you waited for warning, but the warning never came. To shine a light in my face. You said you waited for warning, but the warning never. And that's Sunday Morning 40.
Indie Left, what is happening here?
To check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
The IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. Shout out.
Oh, what's up, Independent Left? Indie
Friend show.
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
The INN, Indie, you're wonderful.
I think Indie was onto something.
Independent News Network, Indie News.
Yeah. What's up, Indie, over on Rockfin?
Independent News Network, also known as INN.
Indie Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without Indie, honestly.
No, I was just going to ask Indie.
A huge thank you and shout out to Indie Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building. Indie.
Indie Left News.
You were doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
At Kennedy News.
I see Indie's in the chat. Hi, Indy. Okay, great. Bye.
You shut up.
Uh-oh.
God. Hi. Hi, everybody. Sam? Spoopy? What happened there? That was really weird. I don't know if my internet just crashed for a second or what, but we're back. Hi. We're here. Yes. Hey, we're live. It's How Did We Miss That? It's Sunday night. I got Reef sitting here. He's with the up close cam. What's up, dude? We're gonna have some fun tonight. I don't normally like to talk about drama and things happening on social media, but they kind of intersected with what we've been talking about here. And Reef got new cans. No, I don't think Reef got new cans. I think you just see them clearer. He's trying to focus. He's working on it, folks. So yeah, it's been a crazy week. Wild Daoud, I want to shout him out. I want to shout out an RIP to Dr. Rafat, of course. I didn't really get to talk about him last week, but Colin and Reef did an incredible tribute on Wednesday, and
yeah, we just put it up. It should be on the channel now.
I'm welling up just thinking about it. But
yeah,
these journalists, man, and of course, the children, and naturally everything that's happening, and they saw something with a bulldozer. That, oh my word, yeah, I don't want to talk about all that shit tonight necessarily, because this is, it's all linked together. Let's just put it that way. So what had happened was we had a bit of a situation over on Substack last week and a half, to get into what the story is. I'm not even gonna start all the other crap, but I want to get into this because this has really been bugging me, and it's the censorship industrial complex has really got their tentacles out right now, and especially given the CTI league that we read about last week, which we've known about for a long time, but now there's a whistleblower with documents out. There was also the hearing that Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger were brought in front of Congress again earlier last month. to talk there. There's a lot of narrative circling around censorship, around Substack and Rumble specifically. I don't know if you remember, but about 6 weeks ago, we covered Amy Klobuchar petitioning openly for Jeff Bezos on Alexa voice searches to censor out and to not include Rumble and Substack articles and videos with search results for Alexa. Openly lobbying publicly, not necessarily putting it in a bill or making a legislation, but strongly suggesting, which is when you're a big defense contractor and you play to the crowd of the congressional forum, that's what's you're gonna see bending like that. Now, I don't know, I'm hoping that he won't, but the Washington Post certainly does not want to see Substack articles prioritized over them, though they should be, because the Washington Post is generally trash. But we ended up with an article published in the Atlantic. So this is a crazy story. Substack has been overtaken by a fight all of a sudden over the last week or couple of weeks. And I'm just going to share the first article, which was by Fisto Sobani, which is one of the friends and writers over on Substack that I've become friendly with, and he's over on Notes, and he's pretty pugilistic, let's just call it. But what had happened, as many of you are aware, or maybe are not, in the latest salvo of the battle to censor Substack has been fired. The so-called Substackers Against Nazis has been spreading a collective letter in an attempt to pressure Substack to remove distasteful authors and their content. Now, it's not exactly that necessarily. What they're calling for actually is a demonetization of accounts that are platforming what they determined to be Nazi content. And we're going to get into exactly what is or is not.
How about new?
Right. And what they
bastard.
Oh, it's brutal. All right. So his Substack is called The Partisan. We here at The Partisan take a maximal free speech stance and wholeheartedly condemn this blatant mob assault, not just on the platform we all share, but on the liberty of every person who uses it, not just now, but in the future. You're attacking us and we will not suffer it. But there's been a big fight. Make no mistake.
Racket right? News.
Yes, that is Racket News.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, they are familiar. But make no mistake that we know this isn't about speech. This isn't about civility. This is about power, your power. This is about control. For those just joining us on the show, this instigating piece by Jonathan Katz in The Atlantic underlying this new assault has been widely criticized and discredited. And his piece in The Atlantic that's causing this hysteria was saying that Substack has a Nazi problem. They do not.
Okay.
Now, what?
Yeah, I haven't seen any.
Well, Matt Taibbi writes in response to this article, tireless busybodies again target Substack. So he's kind of on to the game. And Matt now says that Substack is under attack again. The crusade is led by a site contributor, Jonathan Katz, whose style might be characterized as embittered conventional, i.e. toting the same opinions as every mainstream editorialist, only angrier about it. There's been more of this genre on offer here as staff positions for talking point spouters dry up in legacy shops, but hey, it's a free country. If you want braying about fascism, Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, the lab leak theory, and other hashtag resistance horrors you'd hear about if you just left an NBC in a corner. Now, this guy, of course, came back to that's not me at all. Or you feel deprived of headlines like, quote, what Ron DeSantis and a Norwegian mass murderer have in common. Well, Substack's got you covered. If you want anything more than that. But it's not Matt's idea of what alternative media is for, but fortunately nobody asked him, so why should he care what other people read? But Katz does. And that's the whole point. Jonathan Katz certainly does. I've even mixed it up with him a little bit. We're going to show you that. Though this site is a true content free-for-all, where you can find everything from serialized graphic novels, and there are great fiction writers on the platform, to Portuguese dark storytelling, to Bagel Bites recipes. I know you've been looking for those, Reef.
Bagel Bites. Of course. Who doesn't love Bagel Bites?
It's a microcosm of the old internet, where the randomness and being able to hop from Bigfoot to Buddhism is a key part of the free vibe, and Katz believes he's detected a malicious pattern, and he aims to put a stop to it by deplatforming Substack contributors he doesn't like. Again, it's not necessarily deplatforming, it's demonetizing, but effectively, that's trying to do the same thing in the end.
Same thing. Yeah.
Group letter is being organized, demanding action. Following Katz's stern argument in The Atlantic, Substack has a Nazi problem. Now, I am not going to show this article. And the reason why is because A, The Atlantic is trash. B, I do not feature corporate mainstream media on this show. I try to make it a point not to do that. And C, I'm certainly not going to give this guy any more light than he's already gotten for himself. However, Matt's saying that as an aside, and this is a big thing, that a big reason that the people read Substack is because of the terribleness of it. Magazines like The Atlantic, which is edited by a guy named Jeffrey Goldberg, who won a pile of awards for blowing the weapons of mass destruction story in spectacular fashion for years on end, making him a walking, talking symbol of the failing upward dynamic in corporate media. He works, by the way, for Lauren Jobs. That's Steve Jobs' widow, who bought The Atlantic and funds the entire operation. If that magazine wants people to read Substack less, it might consider not filling its pages with exposés about the Alpha Server fantasies or plaintive defenses of the Steele dossier or other transparent propaganda, instead of demanding deplatforming here. Again, demonetization. This was before the letter had come out. He says, like a prosecutor introducing an adverse witness early, Katz in his piece concedes a numerical observation about the white supremacist problem on Substack. Quote, these are, to be sure, a tiny fraction of the newsletters on a site that had more than 17,000 paid writers as of March, according to Axios, and has many other writers who don't charge for their work. We're talking probably more than 50,000 writers. He says, really, he should stop there, but of course he trudges forward. There are a whole 16 sites, he says. Now it's more than 16. That was anecdotal, and he said that's just where he searched, but 16 whole sites that deploy some variation of a swastika on Substack. And despite these being both legal and a complete non-factor in the national discussion, their existence cannot be tolerated. After explaining his real gripe, that Substack's leaders proudly disdain the content moderation methods that others platforms employ, Katz comes to the moment inevitable in his humorously consistent genre of diatribe in which he threatens to pick up his Substack ball and go home. Of course he does. So what he says is that the question of what kind of community is a Substack is actively cultivating. How long will writers such as Barry Weiss, Patti Smith, and George Saunders, and for that matter, me, be willing to stake our reputations on and share a cut of our revenue with a company that can't
Here's
decide?
some advice. Don't.
Nazi flags count as hate.
All those people don't.
Again, moving the goalpost, now saying that the company can't decide if Nazi flags count as hate speech. No, they do. However, I'm going to talk about why and why you can't kick them off because of that to begin with. Matt says, the first time someone tried this, Barry was on the other end of the dynamic, listed as one of the Substack evils, supposedly inspiring decent folk to leave. In March 2021, Jude Ellison S. Doyle announced their intention to walk out because Substack wouldn't kick the likes of Graham Linehan, author of the very funny Irish sitcom Father Ted, off the platform. The concept then was transphobia panic, i.e., Substack was a home to a burgeoning anti-trans movement spearheaded, Doyle claimed, by Linehan and well, there had to be a second really bad example, so Doyle somehow settled on Jesse Singal, perhaps the single most inoffensive personality to have ever carried a New York Magazine byline. I wouldn't go that far, Matt.
As opposed to Jesse Double.
Well, Jesse Singal is, he's relatively harmless, yes. Nonetheless, Doyle identified the duo of Linehan and Singal as harassment influencers, meaning those engaged in naming individual trans people who then got swarmed by their followers. Substack survived an exodus of about 5 writers in that episode. A year later, they went through another campaign, this one over the anti-vaccine sentiment threat, supposedly posed by Dr. Joseph Mercola and Steve Kirsch and Alex Berenson.
Yeah.
The legacy campaign there gained steam when the mighty Center for Countering Digital Hate, the CCDH, claimed Substack was earning millions from anti-vaccine content. Well, the CCDH stat spurred more panic headlines in WAPO, The Guardian, New York Times, Vanity Fair, among others. Well, how dishonest were
New York
those
Times.
stories? And how dishonest were these stories? Well, the Times was writing about growing pains on Substack and Mashable about its exodus of writers just after the company announced in late 2021 that it had passed the threshold of 1 million paying subscribers, or quadruple the amount for the previous year. That number is now over 2 million, by the way, meaning that the community has again doubled in size since last year. Most corporate outlets would blood sacrifice half their staff for growing pains like that, okay? So let's start there. Now, what Jonathan has really been screeching about on Notes is this, and it's that Hamish McKenzie, who's the COO, interviewed for his podcast a gentleman named Richard Hanani, who I'd never even heard of, but apparently he's got former white supremacist ties and a background. Let's get back to this, to Matt here. So this is why he's screaming about that they're amplifying and trying to promote white supremacy. This guy hasn't, I'm not a fan. I think he is a right winger, but he has reformed from whatever he says he was. I don't know if he has, but to them, Nazi. All right. But in an age when censorship and de-amplification are big factors for journalists tempted to say something unpopular, Katz, destined to be eulogized as a parrot on the shoulder of received wisdom, will not be sympathetic. Moving to a platform that's proven it won't buckle is crucial. People like Substack CEO Chris Best and co-founders Hamish McKenzie and Jirash Sethi have proven they won't let outside groups dictate to them about content. By the way, that's the 3 guys on the thumbnail with the Substack logo above them. That's Chris, Hamish, and Jirash. I mean, so far they've been
it's not
pretty good.
So it's not Weezer?
It's not Weezer. I mean, look, I've had questions about all 3 of them at times. But look, they're corporate bros and they're building a great platform I would like them to stay out of. And that I actually agree with Jonathan Katz. Stay out of the promoting content providers, and content creators entirely, and be a platform. But this is why contributors like Matt, who have a lot to worry about on this front, are loyal. It's because they fight and won't let outside groups dictate to them about content. Right? And they've proven that to Matt and to us. It's why people seek out content here. They know they're getting a far less filtered version of reality than they're seeing on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, where de-amplification, strikes, and outright removals have become routine. Right?
Right.
But what's the value add for Substack if they start bouncing sites at the behest of groups like the CCDH or the ADL or even writers at the Atlantic, who have a pretty decent-sized Substack?
Or the CTI or the UTI.
Well, no, or the SAN, which is the Substackers Against Nazis now. And we're going to, over 200 people have signed this letter and copy-pasted it and sent it to all of their email subscriber base. The minute they take a step in that direction, the site just becomes a miniature version of the giant attitude-grinding machines you find across the rest of social media, from whence everyone fled here in the first place. Why does the world need another such platform? Of course, one could ask, why does anyone need Andon's Right Press? Which is one of the sites that that's drawn Katz's ire. And Katz screams about how Matt irresponsibly links to a Nazi newspaper and helps them recruit and get more videos and more people because he's a right-winger. Literally, like that.
So is Substack going to be freedom of reach, not freedom of speech?
Well, I certainly hope not. But I certainly hope not see. But
okay.
One of the sites. So if one doesn't necessarily think that anyone needs the Andon Reich Press, unless you believe in free speech culture, hate speech isn't illegal in America for a variety of reasons that Katz, who might someday enter into the Guinness Book for writing the most words about the ACLU's defense of neo-Nazis at Skokie without understanding the subject at all, doesn't see. The logic of defending Nazi speech then and now is obvious and has nothing to do with indulging Nazis. David Goldberger led the ACLU's legal team in the Skokie case, and as he put it, quote, "The power to censor Nazis includes the power to censor protesters of all stripes and to prevent the press from publishing and embarrassing facts and criticism that government officials label as fake news." It's literally happening right fucking now. Nearly 50 years later, this is exactly what we're seeing with the Twitter files, the CTI League, the Virality Project that Matt just wrote about, and innumerable other content moderation projects. They start off promising to stop clearly offensive or ridiculous posts like about microchips and vaccines. Yeah, so ridiculous there, right? Quickly, however, the purview expands to include anything that promotes hesitancy or contains anti-Ukraine narratives or too closely overlaps with the information ecosystem of, say, Russia or Palestine. This is how Stanford's Jay Bhattacharya or the Green Party's Jill Stein end up de-amplified on Twitter. How Aaron Mate ends up on a list of accounts passed to the FBI by Ukrainian intelligence, and how guys like that end up on the Mayarovitz list, by the way. I just find it interesting that Matt chooses not to mention that. But I love Matt, and all props to him for being the biggest voice to stand up and punch back against this nonsense that's happening. Because we are under attack here as publishers on Substack by the people who are legacy media and are, in my opinion, invading this platform. And they are guests here. We built this. This is our home. I have over almost 1,200 published posts in the last 3 years on this platform. And I don't really want somebody coming in here and telling me what I can't publish, or that I can't be monetized because they don't like something that I published. And when it comes to Nord Stream, when it comes to all these things, I challenge narratives, and I publish people and I republish people that challenge narratives. This is nonsense, right? Right. So where do these people come from, and how do they come to be so entitled? Their parents still doing their laundry? It's amazing, in addition to being infuriating, right? So Matt writes his rebuttal, which I think is great. All right. Now, sadly, I like this guy, Joshua Hill, and I align with Joshua Hill on a lot of things. And here I'm going to show you the article that everybody has republished on Substack, because not Jonathan Katz's article, though he did help write this. This was a collective of writers on Substack that read Jonathan Katz's article and determined and decided that this was a problem that they couldn't live with, and they were going to look. They want answers, and they're demanding that the owners and that the leaders of this platform and company actually respond to them. So Joshua says, I talk a lot about collective action, and I've been moved and encouraged to see well over 150 writers clearly say that Substack should not assist Nazis in making money on this platform. The platform should not tolerate and help those whose message is the extermination of others. This, to me, is simple and not controversial, but the leadership of this company apparently needs to hear it, and hear it louder and louder. So I'm grateful to those who put this together and glad I could add my voice to this growing chorus. Without further ado, and I can't stress how disappointed I am to see him sign off on this letter. He's one of the few, but I'll tell you, there are 2 or 3 DSA-aligned people that have signed off on this, and this kind of tracks along with DSA level kind of thinking and thought control. All right, now what they are, and you're going to read what they're going to ask here. So here is their big inflammatory image, very clear. Dear Chris, Hamish, and Jiraj, we're asking a very simple question that's somehow been made complicated. Why are you platforming and monetizing Nazis? Okay, so here we go. Now they reference Jonathan's piece in The Atlantic, right? He says that some Substack newsletters.
I love how none of these people are asking Joe Biden why they're platforming and monetizing Nazis.
Like to the tune
You know
of
what I mean?
$150 billion in the last 2 years. Yeah, how
$1
about
billion.
that? Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. How about that?
So, according to a piece written by Substack publisher Jonathan M. Katz and published by The Atlantic on November 28th, which we talked about, the article, and I don't want to quote it, but here's what they said, quote, some Substack newsletters by Nazis and white nationalists have thousands or tens of thousands of subscribers, not all of them paying, by the way, making the platform a new and valuable tool for creating mailing lists for the far right, or for anybody else that wants to use a platform, he doesn't say, and many accept paid subscriptions through Substack, seemingly flouting terms of service that ban attempts to, quote, publish content or fund initiatives that incite violence based on protected classes. Substack, which takes a 10% cut of subscription revenue, makes money when readers pay for Nazi newsletters. I love how he just makes this kind of shit-lib smear over and over again.
Yeah.
All right? And paints, now Substack is just, they're Nazis. Because they accept money,
right?
They get a fee, just like they get the same 10% for every newsletter on the platform. If you set one up, they can't moderate your content per se unless it is sexual or literally breaking the law. Now, as Patrick Casey, a leader of the now defunct neo-Nazi group who's banned on nearly every social platform except Substack, wrote here in 2021, okay, he's going back 2 years, quote, I'm able to live comfortably doing something I find enjoyable and fulfilling. The cause isn't going anywhere. Several Nazis and white supremacists, including Richard Spencer, not only have paid subscriptions turned on, but have received Substack bestseller badges indicating that they're making it minimum thousands of dollars a year. I'm going to repeat that. They're making it minimum thousands of dollars a year, of which Substack gets 10%. Of which Substack gets 10%.
Right.
It's not about the money for Substack.
Which would be $100.
It's not about
a year.
No, I mean, it could be a couple of thousand or 10,000, even $10,000 a year, 20, 100,000 a year. I mean,
yeah.
I know. If you look at,
I'm just saying it's nothing.
Right. If you're looking at the operating budget, it's literally a rounding error in their accounting line. All right. This is not about money here.
Yeah.
It's about giving people the freedom to write whatever they want, to know that unless they're literally calling for people to be
right. But also, do these same people go to every bank, every do we want to talk about how many times that I don't know, mainstream media has platformed openly white supremacist, like Nazi groups? Jon Stewart literally shook his hand on a Disney stage.
Yep.
Like,
sure did. No, this again, completely blind to Ukraine. All right, but he says from our perspective,
I'm not just talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about in Europe. None of these people are calling other businesses to like find Nazis and
they're not
taken away there.
They're not actively monetizing them in a way that's visible to these people.
Sure.
And competing with their.
I mean, there's countless cops that are openly KKK members, but these same people aren't calling them out.
Yeah. But so from our perspective,
they're trying to go police people's words on fucking Substack.
Now, Jonathan. Okay. Now, I actually, sorry. So, from our perspective as Substack publishers, it's unfathomable that someone with a swastika avatar who writes about the Jewish question, who promotes great replacement theory, could be given the tools to succeed on your platform. And yet, you've been unable to adequately explain your position. It's not that they've been unable to, it's that they've decided that you're not worthy of responding to. All right. So in the past, you've defended but now that over 200 people out of 17,000 have signed off on this, now they may be compelled, especially given who their investors are, to do so. But to continue with the letter, and I, again, vehemently disagree with the content of this letter, but I think it's important to get it out there so that we can discuss it and everybody knows where we're coming from and why people are freaking out like me. They say that in the past, Substack has defended their decision to platform bigotry by saying they make decisions based on principles, not PR, and will stick to their hands-off approach to content moderation, which is also not really true, but that's okay. But there's a difference between a hands-off approach and putting your thumb on the scale. We know you moderate some content, including spam sites and newsletters written by sex workers. Why do you choose to promote and allow the monetization of sites that traffic in white nationalism? Promote and advance. Promote is one thing. Now, people are saying that they were getting newsletters suggesting and recommending within their scope of recommended newsletters Nazi content. That's bad. If it falls into whatever category overlaps with someone, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, they have algorithms.
Yeah.
But your unwillingness, as they say, to play by your own rules on this issue has already led to the announced departures of several prominent Substackers, including people I've never heard of, Rusty Foster and Helena Fitzgerald. They follow previous exoduses of writers, as Matt described, as journalist Casey Newson told his more than 166,000 subscribers after the piece came out. The correct number of newsletters using Nazi symbols that you host and profit from on your platform is 0.
Uh-huh.
So they're saying we, your publishers, want to hear from you.
Ones.
Want to hear from you on
as
the
long
official.
As they're closeted.
They want to hear from you on the official Substack newsletter. They're making a demand of what they want to hear and where. Is platforming Nazis part of your vision of success? Let us know. From there, we can each decide if this is still where we want to be. And then they're, of course, sending this out. They're copy-pasting this and sending this out to every single person that subscribes to their Substack, which means that potentially millions of people will see this and now think that Substack is a Nazi platform, which is what they were trying to do in the first place, these people. I don't know why. Considering that they publish here.
Exactly what we talked about last week.
It makes no sense because they don't have an alternative place to publish.
Exactly what we talked about last week.
Yes.
With the CTI. This is exactly what we talked about them doing.
I'm so glad.
This is exactly like what they did to Rage Against the War first time. You know? Like, there was one Nazi who showed up and snuck in, so therefore...
They did it to March for Medicare for All, remember?
Yep.
They did back in 2021. Somebody put some guy on the list, and then all of a sudden it was a Nazi event, even though they kicked him off the second. And these guys haven't even kicked the guy off.
Same reason why there's always one fucking federale who shows up with a fucking swastika at every fucking event that might actually change anything.
Right? Yeah, Rage Against War. They had the guy with the big flag, right? Waving it around.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Before we get back to it, and I don't want to keep forgetting, hey, check this out. If you do want to hook us up, we do have a Substack, indienewsnetwork.substack.com. You can subscribe there. Patreon.com/indienewsnetwork. I'd love to see everyone support Substack because of what's going on here and show your support for that platform and for us over there. That would be awesome. Anna Maris, thank you. Anna Maris tipped $20 over on the Rockfin, says we're all fucked, truly fucking fucked. And I agree with her and I love her. And thank you, Anna, for your support over there. Also, we've got, let me go back to that for a second. We've got Rumble. We are live on Rumble and nobody is chatting. If you are on Rumble and we are live, hey, say something, say hello, let us know we're live.
Quit being fake views.
Quit being fake views.
Put some in the chat.
Rumble has made some major upgrades to their platform lately. I'm talking, they added playlists. They changed the look and feel to look a lot more like YouTube, and you'll see squares and tiles instead of these long things with big descriptions. It's a lot tighter, a lot more condensed.
I mean, they could be using triangles, bro.
They could be, but it's
just think about they could be using triangles.
They could be, but it's not. And then, of course, we've got the Cash App, $, Indie News Network. So again, if you could possibly hook us up, that's great. If not, enjoy the content, share the stream, please do share it and like it. All right, so I want to get back to what's going on here over on Substack Notes and what's going on. So the Elysian, who I'd never heard of, okay, that is
isn't
Elle
that
Griffin.
Movie with
no, that's Elysium.
Matt Damon?
That's Elysium. But
okay.
She writes a counter to this that says Substack shouldn't decide what we read. Okay? And that's kind of, and what I said was, I wasn't invited, but I would sign this too. And this is a counter petition to the one that has been put up by the Substack against Nazis, Substackers against Nazis, which is just silly. Because I think
everybody's
everybody's
that link in chat for people to sign if they agree with it.
Oh, I will. For a long time, the internet felt like a hostile. All these links are going to be in the description afterwards. But for a long time, the internet felt like a hostile place. And then I stumbled upon a garden. Ay, ay, ay. He's a fiction writer. In the middle of the mire, Substack emerged as a beacon of writing and discourse. It was a garden of learning where I could find and follow artists and intellectuals, where I could study human flourishing from some of the best minds pursuing it. I love the sound of this. It's so brilliant. But just outside the walls, the rest of the internet is pressuring Substack to act more like other social media platforms. After an opinion piece was recently published in The Atlantic critiquing fringe voices on the platform, many Substack writers began calling for moderation. They want the platform to decide who can say what and who can be there. But I and the writers who have signed this post are among those who hope Substack will not change its stance on freedom of expression, even against pressure to do so. Because we've seen that before, and it hasn't worked. Other social media platforms have actively given reach to an enormous amount of divisive content, and moderation has amounted to private companies deciding who to deplatform based on their own agenda. Facebook has struggled with hate speech and misinformation. Facebook has struggled with hate speech and misinformation no matter what it has tried with its moderation policies, and Twitter's moderators have actively suppressed stories that might sway an upcoming election, among other discrepancies. But there can be no doubt that there is a lot of hateful content on the internet. But Substack has come up with the best solution yet, giving writers and readers the freedom of speech without surfacing that speech to the masses. In your Substack inbox, you only receive the newsletters you subscribe to. Whether you're a reader or a writer, it is unlikely you'll receive hateful content at all if you don't follow it. And she says that she never has, though she saw it all the time on Twitter and Facebook, despite never having followed an account in that vein. Most Substack readers subscribe to a newsletter via email and never see anything except the emails from the writers they subscribe to. 96% of her own subscribers read via email. That tracks about with mine, not even via the app. And they might not even know that I publish my newsletter using a platform called Substack. How exactly would they come across hateful content on Substack? The author of this recent Atlantic piece gave one way. Actively go searching for it. That's the one way that they gave that you could find it, is to actively go searching for it. He admits to finding white supremacist, neo-Confederate, and explicitly Nazi newsletters by conducting a search.
Is like, you know, when people are upset about like something coming up in their Facebook feeds or whatever, it's because you've trained your algorithm to give that to you.
Effectively, yes, like, that's part of it.
It's like to have found this,
that's part
had
of it.
To have been looking for it.
That's part of it, but I don't want to be dismissive. I don't want to be dismissive. Listen, over 200 people have signed off on this, and there's a good reason why. And the reason why is because of something that I have been upset about too, which is that Substack is picking winners. Substack has amplified a couple of these people over time and has interviewed and has showcased their newsletter for their entire audience. And that's what these people are screaming about, that even if you got 15 new subscribers because of it, why is Substack in the business of getting you 15 new subscribers for your neo-Nazi funded or whatever? You know, again, this is where we're going to talk about whether the content of Richard Hanani is, or he's an asshole for sure. Is he a white supremacist? I don't know. Was he at some point? Yes. Is it promoting that content now? I don't know. The other one was interviewing someone who specifically was a white supremacist, and it was one of those type of interview series, almost like on Jerry Springer, where you bring them on knowing who they are and and asking them about their ideology so that you can learn about why they think the way they think, which you can do. That's legal. That's allowed. It's not promoting them. Now, Jonathan Katz again admits to finding white supremacist, neo-Confederate, and explicitly neo-Nazi newsletters by conducting a search of the Substack website and extremist Telegram channels. But this only proves my point. If you want to find hate content on Substack, you have to go hunting for it on extremist third-party chat channels, because unlike other social media platforms, on Substack, it just won't show up in your feed. People are also saying again that Substack has recommended some of these newsletters to them, and I never got one of them personally. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. One thing mainstream media outlets misunderstand is that Substack is not one platform, it is thousands of platforms, and you get to pick which ones to be part of. And Substack has come up with a powerful way to moderate those platforms. Rather than rely on the company to hire a team of moderators, which they, by the way, did, but Substack democratized the process, giving full moderation control to writers. I have full control. As the author of The Elysian, she has the authority over her own community. She can lock comments on her essays to paid subscribers. She can delete comments on her essays and can ban individuals from commenting or subscribing for the set of amount of time that I choose, including indefinitely forever.
Right.
I can delete every comment.
Ever.
I can delete every comment one user made with the click of a button, and my readers can report comments they deem inappropriate. I am the curator of my own space, and here comments are locked to paid members, including on this post, because this is a space where thinkers from every political spectrum are safe to engage in respectful discourse. That doesn't prevent you from sharing this post with your communities and having discussions there if you'd like. That's the whole point. When Substack rolled out Notes, their Twitter alternative, it came with those same controls. I can lock replies on my Notes to paid subscribers. I can delete replies to notes that I don't like. I can mute, ban, and block people from commenting and following me. And best of all, when I'm scrolling my feed, the only posts that show up are by the people I subscribe to and by the people they're interacting with. There is no viral tweet inserted into my feed. It's a peaceful place filled with writers and readers who are discussing human progress, in her case. Now, she says the Human Public, which is a nonprofit advocating for better public spaces on the internet, compares online platforms to public parks. These spaces should be freely available to the public, but they can be a beacon of community gathering or not, depending on how they are designed and used by the community. They list Substack in their database of pro-social digital spaces for its ability to build bridges between groups. Facebook doesn't make the list, but Facebook groups do, which speaks to the power of small, self-moderated groups. And Facebook groups has all kinds of problems of its own, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to just read this whole thing, but it's really important to get this part of the protest and this counter narrative.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with what she's saying. Yeah, thanks.
Substack
Thanks,
newsletter
Rachel.
near you.
But as they say, why shouldn't we have digital platforms where everyone can feel safe and flourish, like in our best parks and libraries? And yes, that's absolutely true. That's what we've created on Substack. A network of all the best parks and libraries where all of us are safe to flourish. If someone says something in a park you're not part of, not much happens. It doesn't get surfaced to the masses. Unless you actively try to find it, you won't. You're no longer exposed to the niche worldview of whoever says the most outrageous thing or influenced by media outlets profiting from your attention. You're only exposed to the voices you follow and trust online. I'm going to challenge that too, because I had somebody in my comments and in my mentions who follows and subscribes to our newsletter. Her name is Nona Lee, and she's been restacking every person that signed off on this letter, and she's been very active on Notes in the last couple of days. We see you. We definitely do see you and acknowledge you. She has been harassed at times by neo-Nazis and has spent times having to block and deal with the harassment from this and from posting replies to certain Substacks. I don't know what she writes to incite these things. That's not my thing. And it's not necessarily her fault. And I'm not going to be a victim shamer or blamer here. I'm just going to say that some people say that has been happening. So she says, Emily says that that's not happening. I've got people that say that it has been happening to them. So I don't know what Emily's response to that would be other than to say block them and move on. And that was basically my response to them is don't get yourself in a frenzy about it, block and move on. Then they don't get access to you ever again.
Yeah.
The result is that we're uniting ourselves into communities, not dividing ourselves into factions, right? Because you're only exposed to the voices that you follow and trust online. And my community is different from every other community that's being curated on Substack because I follow a different set of writers than everybody else. I have at least a few people that nobody else that I know of that does subscribe, and hopefully I introduce them and it starts to spread those communities. And that's one of the things that's happened here. Spend some time on Substack. Then spend some time on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or Facebook or Meta or whatever, and any of the rest. And it's easy to see that this is one of the best places on the internet. That doesn't mean it's perfect. We're still trying to figure out the best way to handle extremism on the internet. Remember, this thing only launched in April. But of all the ways we've tried so far, Substack is working the best. So let the writers and readers moderate, not the social media platforms. And don't have one big town square we all have to be exposed to. Have a bunch of smaller ones that we can choose to be part of. Maybe the future will come up with an even better idea than this one, but right now, Substack is not just a model for better social media or even a better media. It's a model for a better internet. That's why, alongside the incredible writers who signed this letter below, I'm not advocating for a lack of moderation. I'm advocating for community moderation. I'm advocating for decentralized moderation. Together, we're advocating for a future internet where we decide what we read, not an algorithm or a company, where we can create small gardens on the internet where all of us can flourish. And Matt Taibbi, oh look, Barry Weiss signed off on this.
Is it possible? Okay.
She got named by by what's his name?
Toady, Barry Weiss.
Oh, I know that guy.
Sorry, Netanyahu Toady.
Edward
Barry
Snowden.
Weiss. Barry Weiss.
Freddie DeBoer signed off on this. Okay, and Freddie has been vocal about being harassed by Nazis, but he doesn't want to see this platform censored or anyone demonetized. We saw what happened, even incorrectly, to Mint Press and to Consortium News, and it hurts when you get demonetized. Matt Taibbi, there he is. He signed off on this. I would sign off on this too, and I can reply and tell her that I would. There's Fisto, and we read his article first. Now, someone says that if Richard Dawkins signed off on it, then you're in poor company. Same thing with Slavoj Žižek, who I don't necessarily agree with. But at the same time, we are all about the freedom to publish what we want to publish, and that they're free to be wrong too. Sam Khan, we're about to read as well. And then Ted Gioia, who is the honest broker and one of the largest Substackers as well, that has everybody's respect, as well as Walter Kern, who does a Substack, who does a podcast with Matt. But
coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Here's your original writer of the Atlantic article, Jonathan M. Katz. Orange check. The orange checks, by the way, are people I believe with.
Why does everything got to be a check?
Well, it's the.
Can't we get like a badge or like a trophy?
It is a badge, but the purple checks are 10,000 paid subscribers and up. The orange checks are 1,000 paid subscribers and up. The clear orange check is 100 paid subscribers and up, I believe, is how you get it. And I have no check because I am not important apparently on that platform. But
like
Jonathan's
a ribbon, can we get a ribbon?
This is that this article is a series of lies. You can sign it if you want, but you should know that going in.
Lies, damn lies.
He's got 4 likes and 2 replies. Says the guy who won't name any of the blogs he indicts, so we can judge for ourselves without blindly taking his word for it. Trust me, bro. There's Nazis.
And
here's our friend Crap.
Trust me, bro.
Right? Well, as you can see, and I don't want to get into those replies. That gets really into the weeds. Now, here's someone else on there that I don't know very well, Stone Bryson. I saw this and I'm like, ooh, I think this is good. He actually quote tweeted or saw that this was happening. Now, Marissa at the Handbasket was actually one of the people who co-authored that Substackers Against Nazis article after seeing the Atlantic piece. Stone says, Dear Hamish, Chris, and Jiraj, this is a note of encouragement. The majority of us value free speech above everything else, so please ignore these chattering busybodies. I assure you they are the minority. A noisy minority, to be certain, but a minority nonetheless. Although, to be fair, if you really had an urge to ban someone, I'd be okay with you dumping the people who are involved with these shenanigans. After all, there is no rational thought process in existence which demands that you must allow those trying to destroy your platform that use that very platform as their weapon. Let them bellyache on X and Facebook where they belong. Okay, I'm just joking, I think. Anyhow, thank you for keeping Substack free. So, signed Stone Bryson, the Stone Age. And there was a lot of sentiment to that out there. I'll take a pause for a minute here and check out what everyone's up to. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Yes, I also, Kenneth Locke, I advocate for those authoritarian fuckers to go fuck themselves as well. That's a good sentiment. I don't know if I can see if I'm seeing the chat coming through. But anyway, all right. Crab better have my money. Mastermind Hour. I don't know if he's going to. We'll see. Although he's been hooking it up over at the hotspot, and he's been doing some really funny videos over there for them. Hit him with the mad out. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, Rick wants to torture me.
Lannister always pays their debts.
Right?
Yep.
That is correct. Substack is a way for independent journalists to continue writing.
This speech is boring and paranoid.
Yes, I'm getting super tired of censorship on all platforms. Right. And I agree with you on that too, Vicky. Thank you, V.S. Adams. All right, so Stone had something to say. Now, Sam Khan, you saw signed off on this letter. Sam Khan.
Is that the Stone we're talking about?
No, Stone Bryson, now Sam Khan, K-A-H-N, like the Wrath of
so
Khan.
not Stone Cold.
No, not Stone Cold Steve Austin. Dude, I got to tell him to change his name to Stone Cold Stone Bryson. I don't know if he'll get sued by the WWE.
Okay.
Though. All right.
Sure.
So Sam Khan brings up a couple of really good points, and then he, of course, gets a response from what's his name over there? From Jonathan Katz. So we're going to cover the little back and forth. And then I got into it with Jonathan Katz because I made a suggestion about how we might want to handle this moderation. But Sam says, "Dear Substackers Against Nazis, your hearts are obviously in a good place, but please do consider one way or another the following. That number one, and this is my big thing, what's the mechanism of action for determining who's a Nazi? Is a Nazi a member of the Nazi party? Is it someone who self-identifies as a Nazi? Someone who espouses some views that overlap with Nazism as assessed by others? Someone who isn't traditionally Nazi but is far right? What about people who have nothing to do with Nazism but are actively calling for the elimination of Jewish people or of a Jewish state or of a Palestinian state? Is there a Substack entity or committee that makes these decisions? How big is it? Who's on it? Would you be equally comfortable if the entity ended up being, for instance, an algorithm? Does this entity have jurisdiction over only Nazis or over others, let's say racists, misogynists, ultra-nationalists, science deniers, others with objectionable views, and if so, over which of these? All right? These are the kind of cans of worms this is going to open. How expensive is this committee then? And are you comfortable with its funds coming directly from support for writers? How does this committee or entity get its information? Is there like a tip jar and Substackers report on other Substackers? What's the appeals process if you're accused of objectionable speech or views? And if someone's
it'll be like Britain. You gotta if you see something, say something on the internet.
They say that in New York.
Rat out your people. Yes.
If someone's kicked off the platform, what's to stop them from a defamation suit against Substack? Wouldn't that make it easier for Substack to just not list any reason for kicking somebody off? If you're calling for moderation, please at least think through some of the ramifications of what you're calling for. And I keep saying slippery slope here. Michael Moore, M-O-H-R, wrote a response about why he signed the letter. And it became a lot of, this is liberal, this is leftists that are doing this. And they're blaming leftists for being ridiculous. Right. So they're usually pretty vocal about it. Think Hitler was right. Like to talk about the superiority. Is it not? Okay. So he's trying to answer that. And then he's I guess, reporting this post or what you can do. Right. But we found out what happens when you report. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But Jonathan then responds and says, it's hard to believe that people don't know this, but okay. There's this thing called Substack Trust and Safety. They already make moderation decisions and have for years. I assume their salaries are paid out of the 10% cut they take from our revenue, plus the money they get from investors. It's a thing that basically every social network in the world has. So for speaking for Jonathan, but our primary ask is not for anyone to be kicked off, it's for Substack Corporate to come out and discuss publicly why they go out of their way to promote writers who espouse white nationalist views, allow Nazis to monetize their newsletters, and yes, allow posts that seem to be in blatant violation of the TOS against hate. Stuff like this. So he put up a collective of stuff. Yeah. He blocks out and blurs out most of the names, although he doesn't blur this one out, and he doesn't blur another one of them out, I noticed. And this one, by the way, if Bin Laden didn't do 9/11, then who did? Joe published a video very similar to something like that that was factual. That literally did a deep dive into exactly the influence of 9/11. Like, yes.
Oh, Bin Laden didn't do 9/11.
Right. Then who did? And guess, and it's saying the U.S. and Israel did. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people that have evidence to prove that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yes, and JFK, but don't go too far down that rabbit hole.
Now,
we don't have enough tinfoil for our hats.
Correct. Now,
you know,
Sam responds to Jonathan's hysteria because Jonathan likes to run around with his hair on fire. Jonathan, thank you for the reply. Here are a few of the many problems with your piece. Number one, you really misrepresent Substack's terms of use, and I'm very surprised that you got past the Atlantic. The terms of use for hate are to prohibit speech that incites violence based on protected classes, a narrow standard in line with current First Amendment jurisprudence. You claim that the terms of use formally proscribe hate, which is a far broader reading and is your own concoction. What else is new? He pulled it out of his own ass. Number two, under the actual terms of use, very few of the newsletters that you so assiduously scoured through would be in violation of the content guidelines. I'm fully with you on the noxiousness of the Great Replacement theory or the history of World War II from a pro-Nazi perspective, but in looking through the Substacks you identified, I didn't come across explicit calls for violence or for segregation, which is the threshold for proscribing speech. Your argument is that Substack is condoning blatant violation of the TOS, where it's very thin. Actually, it seems that the only complaints have to do with Substack leadership are Hamish McKenzie hosting Richard Hanania on The Active Voice and McKenzie recommending Daryl Cooper. But, as you note, Hanania's appearance was before outing the white supremacist. Was before his outing for the white. Okay, let me back up. As you know, Hanania's appearance. Hanania's appearance was before his outing for the white nationalist pieces, and when he was a widely published and discussed figure, not for being a white nationalist. For being an asshole, yes. For being a Republican.
Motherfucker, do you speak it?
The issue with Cooper was for interviewing a white nationalist as part of a planned series on extremism. Like I said, in other words, for doing something that journalists do all the time. You can certainly argue that McKenzie should have invited a different guest or recommended a different podcaster, but that's very far from your claim that Substack has a pattern of promoting Nazi shitheels. They have more of a pattern of promoting neo-lib shitheels. Number four is that it's completely incoherent from your writing and statements to what the proposed remedy is. You say that you would like Substack's leadership to come out in the open and talk publicly about their policy. But they've already been crystal clear about it. It's free speech with hands-off moderation for views or beliefs. Then you say that we are not, as lazy rumors have it, trying to deplatform Substack contributors we don't like, but you are calling for the demonetization of objectionable newsletters, which is a kind of shadow ban. It would certainly serve as a form of punishment for noxious speech and would diverge from Substack's current terms of use. In the article, you explicitly back away from a ban, but then if Substack were to follow all your other recommendations, wouldn't they still, as you might put it, be left with a Nazi problem? I think, as we both know, the only way to really make Substack free of any sort of Nazi or far-right content is a change in the terms of use, proscribing certain types of expression, and a shift to a far more robust inquisitorial content moderation. That would make for a very different platform with very different values, and would, I'd argue, be an extreme overreaction to the 16 or so newsletters you found and a regrettable podcast invitation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so.
Yep.
This idea that you're just a concerned Substack citizen looking for clarity from the founders is really disingenuous. If that's the case, you're supposed to identify a clear call for action and trace your inability to get the leadership to agree to the proposed remedy before you write for a publication that clearly bears Substack no goodwill, like The Atlantic. I do find it curious that you appoint yourself an arbiter of online civility when you respond to somebody who critiques you by calling them a loser, a douchebag, and old. And is 53 really so old? I hope not. You have caused real
old person.
This is what bothers me the most. That Jonathan, you have caused real and possibly permanent damage to a platform that a lot of people here care about and that is fundamentally operating from a good place. When people Google Substack now, Nazi will come right up in their search results. Okay? That's something that Andon's right press never succeeded in doing, but you did, and your bosses at The Atlantic wanted done in the first place. And I said that here, the last one is the agenda of his bosses. He can cry and moan that he's not serving an agenda, but he's either lying through his teeth or genuinely stupid. Okay? Because he and I went back and forth, okay, where I said to someone that it never stops with one. It may not be Jonathan's that decides next time. That's why this is so dangerous to even entertain. And Jonathan, the smug douche that he is, yeah, I can call you a douchebag because you're a big fat orange check. Oh, yes, if Substack stops actively promoting white supremacists, then the obvious next step is the gulag. Do you even listen to yourself? Meanwhile,
Dumb, stupid, or dumb, huh?
Meanwhile, in reality, I'm saying to Jonathan, I would actually like them to get out of the business of promoting anyone's newsletter and picking winners entirely, but that's not really what you're calling for either. Just that Substack not promote the ones you perceive to be bad. I don't like Hanani either, by the way. I feel the same way about Nate Silver and Robert Reich, who least need the amplification from Substack for their neoliberal garbage and gaslighting. And last week it was fucking Fredo Cuomo showing up here and everybody went, oh my God, Cuomo's here. These are the assholes that fucking made fun of this platform. And now they're here with their tail between their legs going, yeah, well, okay, I guess it is kind of a cool place. We should shun these assholes.
How long before Rachel
not
shows
embrace
up?
them. Oh, coming to a Substack near you. All right, now. I thought this one was also a really good response to this entire problem, right? And to this fight that's been happening. And the problem with me that I see here is that there's a loud group, like Sam said on Notes, that are screaming about this, demanding some response from Substack, and not a lot of people screaming about the free speech part and saying, you know what? This has been fine. Everything's working okay. This guy just decided it was a problem, and now everybody's got to jump. Okay? And oh yeah, he happens to work for corporate media and a billionaire on top of being a freelance independent journalist like Crystal Ball. So, Joshua T. Calkins Trewergy, who I had never heard of at the Storytellers Corner, writes this.
Grow up, get serious.
Yeah, grow up and get serious. Exactly. Thank you, Crystal. And I think she may even have her thing here on Substack. God, she fell on her face so badly this week. It's just spectacular how compromised she is. Why she keeps getting to interview Booby when Marianne Williamson was literally an officiant of her wedding is beyond me. But I digress. Anyway.
The hoes be knowing.
Yeah, the hoes do be knowing. Somebody actually published an article or put a video out about why I left TYT that I thought was, oh my goodness, about 4 years too late. But
can you stop embarrassing yourself?
Come on. So here's Joshua, who says, given the recent screeching echoing through the cyber halls of Substack in recent days concerning the Nazi problem the platform has, I decided it might be helpful to do a little experimentation. Now, this is really important. This guy does the lookup, and he tries to find what everybody's screaming about. since first coming across Marissa Cabas's since-deleted note wherein she lamented the apparent overwhelming plethora of such adamant knuckle-draggers on the platform, including me, I figured that it should be quite easy, within a couple of days' worth of randomly scrolling through the various topic tags one can quickly search by, to come across at least half a dozen examples of these SS-worshipping hate-mongers, right? Wrong. Give me Trump. Wrong. After 3 days,
wrong,
spending at least 15 minutes twice per day looking, I came across one lone example. Thank you. A schmuck who jumped into the comments of one of my fiction posts to try to promote and link his own paranoid screeds. That's it. I only found this lone example because he latched on to me, which, by the way, he's free to block and to make sure that guy never sees his stuff or comments again. So to Mr. Katz, Miss Cabas, and anyone else flailing around like the hairs on fire about this, I would suggest that what is more likely is that you, like Media Matters, before you, over Elon Musk's X platform, went out of your way in search of these Nazis. Substack didn't randomly promote them to you, I suspect. But I did come across no less than 20 examples daily of people calling for conservatives to be jailed, to be regarded with blanket scorn and suspicion, and 2 Substacks where authors recommended that January 6th defendants face summary execution for their insurrection.
Oh, yep.
Fun stuff.
Insurrection, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Might I suggest that instead of spending all this immense time and effort caterwauling about the fact that people you find disgusting, and I frankly agree with you there, they are disgusting, are able to make a living by publishing their tripe, a thing I could easily say for both Katz and Cabas. Seriously, these internet hall monitors earn money for finger-wagging and begging for censorship, for saying, govern me harder, daddy? And that these two and everyone else who copy-paste this call for answers read attempted bullying, take the time instead to do the following. A. Name and shame these actual Nazi Substacks, and spend the length of a post pointing out all their fallacies, their falsehoods, and their non-starter assumptions and talking points. If you have any intellectual integrity or honesty about you...
The answer to speech you don't like...
is better speech.
More speech. Right.
You have to debunk their speech. This should hardly be a challenge at all. We're talking here about ideas that have been successfully countered for decades, Mr. Katz and Ms. Cabas. Give it a try. I might actually read and enjoy your takedown of those troglodytes who, frankly, I see almost no evidence of being on Substack beyond Hararia. I don't remember. I don't care about the jackass. B. Quit demanding that your red lines be the ones applied on every goddamn platform you touch your controlling tentacles to. Fuck yes. C. Start pointing out the extreme voices in your own camps, folks, because there's a lot of them, and the fact that they routinely engage in the same kind of dehumanizing rhetoric against their and your socio-political ideological opposition as those spectral Nazis do against, well, anyone who isn't them, makes your buddies more kindred spirits with those digital skinheads than anyone I would think you'd be comfortable with. I'm appalled that this censorious attitude has crept into my niche neck of the woods. I, only half an hour ago, found an email from Fictionistas, a stack I appreciate for its highlighting the fiction writing element here on Substack, in my inbox, and it was yet another copy and paste of this twaddle. That's a great word. I like twaddle. Sucks. I do not respect supremacists of any stripe, folks.
Isn't that the thing under chicken? No, it's a waddle.
I do not respect supremacists of any stripe, folks. That includes the sort of Katz and Cabas apparently are progressive supremacists who wield the crude club of censorship and the jagged stone knife of cutting off funding from those who they find objectionable and who they are either too dim-witted to verbally spar with or are too cowardly to openly and directly confront because they're afraid of violence.
Yeah.
Shame on both all of you for attempting to use mob tactics and dialectic poison. In summation, Miss Katz, Miss Cabas, I think you both missed your true callings. Really, I do. You're both so obviously concerned with the well-being of others. It strikes me that one or both of you should have instead become police officers rather than paid writers. I mean, I can't imagine either one of you agreeing to the paltry salary most policemen make, though that's a hurdle to get over, but so too would be the physical capabilities that most new officers must demonstrate, and I don't picture either one of you two when I use the words physically capable, not by a country mile. Oh, maybe exorcists instead. Yeah, I happen to believe that demons are real and that demonic possessions occur throughout the world, so even though they're extremely rare and impossible to verify, sort of like the degree of danger you propose is posed by Substack allowing these Nazi accounts to exist, you know? In case you can't tell, and that's a serious question at this point, I'm taking the piss with both or all of you who have signed on this finger-wagging effort. If any of you had my respect before, it is by dint of your jointing this mob action, reduced to barely extant. And for you, Mr. Katz and Miss Cabas, well, I didn't respect you much as it was, so nothing of value is lost there. I love this one. I thought that was brilliant and very well written, and obviously not written by an American, or at least a very well-educated one, if so. Joshua, bravo. Well done, you. What's up, everybody? I know we're talking about Substack drama, but this is really important because it's censorship. They are coming for us. This is the shitlibs coming for they're claiming Nazis right now. It starts with Nazis. Then it becomes, and I already saw it start to jump to people who are anti-trans. Okay, now it's you're platforming hate speech against trans people. And then they continue to move the goalposts and move the line and move the line and move the line. So I decided to poke the Jonathan Katz bear and quote tweet him. We should start a petition of Substackers against ethnic cleansing, calling for every pro-Israel Substack to be banned since they're in the middle of an ethnic cleansing right now. Go ahead and openly say you support ethnic cleansing by not signing it. See how easy and lazy that is? Be careful, Jonathan. You're traveling down a dangerous censorship path, and you will not always be the arbiter of what's ban-worthy. He plays right the fuck into it beautifully. And here he goes. So, Jonathan has a response to this, and he quote tweets it and says, that would be fucking stupid, basically, is what he would say, is what it said. I'd be safe, but that would be a very dumb thing to do. And I say this as someone who's been outspoken again about Israel's genocidal intent in Gaza. At least he's on the right side of that. He's not a Zionist. As would calling for every, say, pro-Trump blog to be banned, or even every blog that traffics in any kind of white supremacy, or even turning to permabans, or even negative moderation at all as a move of first resort, which is why we aren't calling for any of that. Yeah, you're not now, dummy.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
But it ain't gonna be you next time that calls for it. It's gonna be somebody calling for it on you. And then you're gonna be like, come on, that's unfair.
You never see it coming.
Shitlibs go to shitlib. Something tells me this guy is an active member of DSA. I don't know why. But to prove to Jonathan that I put my money where my mouth is, this piece was written in September saying not you two Substack, stay out of promoting content, be a platform. Okay, and I never mentioned Richard Hanania, I don't believe. All right, but Substack should not be amplifying any creators. They should be a platform that delivers exceptional service to creators who are free to publish whatever they want, so long as they don't violate the TOS or federal and state laws. I wrote this 3 days ago in response to Jonathan and his screeching. Now, Ted Gioia, he writes about jazz, and he's great. Everybody loves him. He's incredibly well respected, and I was waiting for him to weigh in, and I honestly thought that he was going to republish that. I was going to be really disappointed if he did. And he pleasantly stood up and surprised me. And he said, I urge you to support individual rights and civil liberties. Organizations who try to silence and censor writers are the ones who have a real Nazi problem. The historical record is clear on this. Censorship is used by the powerful to silence the weak. We've seen that everywhere from the Spanish Inquisition to the French Committee for Public Safety to the Soviet gulags and beyond. And today we are seeing censorship regimes weaponized against writers and others all over the world. Journalists in particular have a responsibility to defend freedom of expression, Jonathan, which is the lifeblood of their vocation. Fisto says, thank you, Ted. Amen, Ted. And a lot of people are in agreement with Ted. Okay? Because Ted signed off on this letter and they want answers. His crowd. And I'll bet you he's lost followers because of this. And I'm sorry for that, but I hope that he gains substantially more as a result. All right? Now, Fisto, back at the end of November, when this first came out, said that, as many of you know, there have been renewed calls for censorship on Substack. And here at The Partisan, again, we take a maximal stance. So the facts are these. Pro-censors seek out content that upsets them, often content with extremely low engagement, which is exactly what Jonathan Katz did. He claims that he's got newsletters with 10,000 plus subscribers. How many of them are paid? How much are they making? How much is Substack profiting from that? And what is it even enough? I'll get to that in a minute. But pro-censors seek out content that upsets them. Most of us would never see this content if it weren't for pro-censors' protests, like we said. Pro-censors do not understand the basics of the free speech position, as evidenced by their completely not understanding Substack's plainly written policy. They brook no criticism. Anything above a vain whimper of protest gets you ignored, mocked, and always blocked. They disrespect every person on this platform when they demand that Substack save us from objectionable, offensive, and hateful content, as if we can't decide that ourselves. We do not need them or Substack to save us from the bad guys. As grown, mature, adult human beings, we are perfectly capable of doing it ourselves. Substack respects this. Their platform will continue to prosper. As we all wish to see this, I encourage you all to challenge and critique any pro-censor argument you see anywhere and everywhere on this platform. We fight bad speech with more speech. Wow, I heard somebody say that a little while ago. Right up to the gates of hell and beyond. Who's with me? I would say Reef is with you, Fisto. Reef is with you. User was banned for this comment.
Everyone's favorite robot, Fisto.
And Fisto, by the way, is using an alias, and he admitted that he is, and that's fine. I'm cool with that because I do too. Now, here's where it starts to go wrong. Sarah reported Fisto because she used the report button, except, oh boy, sorry, I changed the sizing.
Yeah, that goes to the fucking article guy, not the...
Yes, Sarah signed her name to Substackers Against Nazis letter. This information is publicly available. I tagged her in my criticism of the piece. She commented on my piece. She reported me to myself for stalking. Ah, yes, stalking. Non-subscribed user Sarah says, this person is stalking me and tagging me in posts despite never having contact with him. Stalker!
Yep.
I said, it's what Nazis do, Fisto. He says, but think about it a little more. They had structural advantages on Twitter. Those do not exist on Substack. Even better, they don't even know how it works. It's open season as far as I'm concerned. No mercy.
Yeah.
Right? I said, but this is why I picked this.
Cobra Kai?
Right. An enemy deserves no mercy. This is how words get used to censor and ban people, by the way. She's going to run around telling everyone you stalked her for tagging her in a post that she publicly put her name to. But of course, the context gets lost somewhere. It becomes a game of telephone, and the legend of the story begins. 2 weeks from now, you openly attacked her, violated her safe space, and incited violence. Then the DEI,
right?
Then the DEI censors, right? Then the DEI censors that use that to demand a TOS ban, have a hissy fit when it doesn't work, then leave in a huff. End scene. He says, I hope they do. I will absolutely pound them into the dirt. And that's when I got angry enough to say, you know what? I'm going to talk about this shit tomorrow night. Because this is insane.
Yeah.
Somebody said, I hope you were goose stepping when you were stalking her. Holy shit. At least she didn't call you a Nazi stalker. Right. Dude, people are just Shout out Rich. Rich even weighs in there. Rich had a bunch to say too. All right, so quote tweeting Fisto, Georgia McGraw says, things I've learned today is 1, the report function just reports to the Substacker whose piece you are commenting on, not Big Daddy Substack as this lady thought. 2, there are people who want to have other people's comments removed for even being slightly caustic in tone. They're the ones who want to paint themselves as Nazi hunters and wish to implement censorship here. It was never about Nazis, but I already knew that last bit. And we saw this with the COVID hunters, right? I remember that there was an entire group of COVID misinformation hunters. On Twitter. Oh yeah, they put an entire group together of people that were hunting COVID misinformation.
Yep.
Now, Marissa, who is one of the authors of the original letter to Substack on against Nazis, she's very proud of herself. More than 200 publications joined Substackers Against Nazis. Despite strong media coverage, Substack founders still offer no direct response. So Marissa, who's very proud of herself and very full of herself, on Thursday, I published an open letter that was drafted with input from more than 100 Substack publishers and shared by each of us on our respective Substacks. The goal, to get an answer from the public.
And what does she cover?
Who knows? But to demand that that the platform's founders as to why they're platforming and monetizing Nazis, like actual Nazis, and the groundswell of support has been amazing. Ever since the first round of us shared the letter, more than 200 publications in total have published it on their own Substacks, and our efforts have been covered by Forbes, Fast Company, The Hill, and Newser. It's been exciting to see our reach, but above all, Substack leadership's response to these media outlets asking them about our efforts has been quite clarifying. Substack declined to respond to Substackers Against Nazis letter, but directed Fast Company to a separate open letter written by journalist L. Griffin, which we read, that as of Thursday had been signed by more than 50 publishers on the platform to signal their support of Substack's current moderation policies. The list of signers included Matt Taibbi, Free Press founders Barry Weiss and Nellie Bowles, and the biologist Richard Dawkins, among others. Substack also gave Fast Company a statement echoing what it told The Atlantic, which is that they're a platform built on freedom of expression and helping writers publish what they want to write. Some of that writing is going to be objectionable or offensive. Substack has a content moderation policy that protects against extremes like incitements to violence, but we do not subjectively censor writers outside of those policies. She says that, again, we're left to wonder if being a literal Nazi who supports Nazi policies and encouragingly posts Nazi imagery isn't an incitement to violence, then what is? So she posted to Substack Notes on Friday with a simple idea that if you're fine with Nazis on the platform, just say so. So again, reversing it and saying that, no, I'm not fine with it. I just can't ban it. Right?
Right.
It's been frustrating to see how many people are willing to offer complex explanations for a fundamental concept. Nazis are fine by me. No, it's not that concept. So I decided to strip it down to its core. And then one of the signers of the counter letter that Substack leadership is actively promoting to media said it plainly, that they're fine with Nazis on this platform. In some ways, it was a relief. No more bloviating, no more talking about the thing we all know the signatories of the other letter really mean. So now, this person now just put words in the mouths of every other person that signed the letter, and now she's saying that Matt Taibbi's okay with Nazis on this platform. By association, because they all signed the letter.
He's a useful idiot for Nazis.
Well, he does own a podcast called Useful Idiots, but that's beside the point.
Yes.
At least from here, we can have an honest conversation. Substack still has yet to respond directly to this group of crybabies, despite the letter personally being emailed to them Thursday morning. Wow, because they don't get any other emails on a Thursday morning. Until then, we'll watch the participants continue to roll in and plan our next move. Dun, dun, dun. And if you'd like to join the effort, here's my email address. Don't email her and tell her that this is completely wrong, censorious, and crazy. And a couple of
especially
writers,
on Thursday, don't do that.
A couple of writers that I've been very disappointed to again see agree with this, like Andy Adams, who's a great photographer, and he just wants it to be peaceful and nice on Substack. He's a photographer. He doesn't want to see Nazi stuff. I understand. All right, but this is bigger than just you not seeing Nazi stuff. This is about them demonetizing a creator that Marissa, or that Jonathan Katz decides is a Nazi. Okay? Is C.J. Hopkins a Nazi because he published a book that has a surgical mask that has a swastika on it talking about the Nazi tactics of Germany during the lockdown in 2021. Is he a Nazi? These people would say yes.
The German government, apparently.
They would say he shouldn't be monetized on Substack for that. And they can fuck off. Oh. And it's made me fucking angry as shit. Because it's almost midnight and I'm still hopping mad about it. So, here's someone that I disagree with. And here's the point, is that I am agreeing with people who I usually disagree with because we are aligned when it comes to free speech. I agree with libertarians. I agree with everyone when it comes to free speech. I'm not an absolutist. I'm agreeing with sticking to laws and terms of service. If being pro-Nazi on Substack was so lucrative and profitable, then the place would be crawling with them. You would have all sorts of players from the industrial censorship complex getting in the game, leftists too. Nazi party people holding elected office anywhere in the U.S., 0. Well, I would say it's 1. It's Paul Gosar. Current elected positions in danger of losing an election to pro-Nazi candidates, 0. If these people are so dangerous, then why does the FBI have to infiltrate their groups in order to plan and assist them in their idiotic criminal actions? We are being manipulated by playing into this nonsense. Looking at you, lefty. Now, again, Spandex is obviously a right-winger who says that Democrats are lefties. Democrats are right-wing authoritarians, not independent and not leftists, and not the
Serenity now!
Not the SJW. I'm demanding control over your speech. There are actual principled leftists.
Labels are bad.
Stay independent. Correct, and that's what we are. We're independent, but we are to the left. Now, in conclusion, I have some serious questions myself for notes. And everybody who signed this letter. Until he published in the Atlantic, did you have any idea even who Richard Hanania was? Or if there were any other Substacks active that you might not want to be on the platform? I guess is no.
Nope.
Did you ask how much Substack actually profits from this content and whether it would be more costly legally to restrict creators and deal with the censorship lawsuits?
Nope.
Or allow people the leeway to self-manage the platform? I'm willing to bet they aren't keeping them from being banned for the money. And that 10% Substack gets isn't even enough to hire a content moderator or pay a lawyer. Jonathan Katz and the Atlantic and Marissa Cabas are bullies, and we are all playing their game and filling their agenda to keep the spotlight on one of the few places you can openly question established narratives without suppression. Today, it's Nazis. Tomorrow, it's the people who support the Palestinians. Then, it's those who challenge Big Pharma for the next pandemic that all the bigwigs have been teasing and warning about. This is what they are trying to do. Now, this person says that even privately owned social media platform exists only for profit maximization and market domination. Your question or thought is like wondering why there's so much water on Earth. No, not at all. What we're saying is you have to weigh the risk versus the cost. Risk versus reward. And even if these 200 people leave Substack and take their entire audience with them, how many people does that actually represent monetization-wise? Is that really going to hurt so badly Substack's bottom line that they're going to compromise on the principles of the platform? And by the way, none of them has as big a platform as even Matt Taibbi, let alone Barry Weiss and some of the other people who have signed off on that other letter. And that is what, and that's what Fisto has said to me privately, is that if you look at just the straight dollars of this and the economics, Substack is going to, in the end, side with the larger creators that are generating more revenue for their platform. Now, they have not responded other than having somebody restack L's note. But my guess is that based upon who their large investors are, being Andreessen Horowitz and Y Combinator, and that they are VC funded, which is tied into the DEI and ESG movements, they're going to be forced and pushed by their investors to respond in some way, shape, or form, which is disappointing. I hope they hold the line, because we've talked about Substack and Rumble being under assault from a multitude of apparatus, one of them being Congress. And one of the speculations is that, and if you look at Jonathan Katz's background, he spent time early on covering the Defense Department. Does he have connections with the security state? I'm not going to speculate one way or another. I'm asking questions. I don't know. But I'm going to find out. Oh, yes, you can be sure I'm going to look into this and we're going to find out. What are those connections?
FBI, open up!
Well, Fisto is convinced that the censorship industrial complex and maybe even the CTI League are involved in sowing discord and implanting this story somehow, and in the escalation and amplification of this story somehow. And of course, we all know that the censorship industrial complex has agents with large platforms on Substack. They have to. They're everywhere. They're in 72 countries, according to the CTI League. So we've got to fight this. I mean, I'm standing and punching, and it feels like very lonely out there. There are several that stand with us and several that have large platforms, and they're most concerned that they've seen their freedom of speech at some point either taken away or somebody close to them has been. And they know those dangers of that slippery slope. Even if they don't like what's being published, or they don't like the creator, or don't think personally that they should be monetized, it's not their call. Just like it's not my call. And it's not your call, Jonathan Katz. It's up to Substack Legal, primarily. And remember that because these are VC tech bros, they're going to listen to their lawyers first. It's not even going to be Andreessen Horowitz and the venture capitalists. It's going to be the lawyers that decide how this is responded to and if. And it may take a day or two or three or four for all the executives to roundtable, get together, decide how they want to approach this as a platform and respond after corrections from their legal team. And that may take 3, 4, or 5 days, Marissa and Jonathan. So I'm sorry if they're not necessarily going according to your timeline, if they choose to respond to you at all, which they don't have to. The entitlement that drips off of these people is disgraceful. Disgraceful. You are no better than us, than any other performer here on this platform, than any other creator here on this platform. I don't give a shit how big your audience is. Take it and get the fuck out if you don't like it. And that's what most of us are standing up collectively and saying. So, I don't know how many of you spend any time over on Substack Notes. I actually do like it as a social media entity. I've met a ton of really cool people and found a ton of newsletters and a ton of different writing and people that I would never have found otherwise if it weren't for that new medium that opened up in April. I've been a big embracer and fan of that system. And if I really want to, I can block Jonathan Katz and I can block Marissa Kavis. I'd rather fight with them because I don't want them running around spewing this bile unchallenged. But that's up to me.
Yep.
If it's bothering my mental health so bad that I can't get past it, I can block their ass and move on. And never have to worry about it again. That's the beauty of what this platform has created for everyone. So, this was a one-story, really a one-story story tonight, a one-story show. But it featured a lot of different articles from a lot of people you may not have already heard of. And that's one of the things I love to do here. I love showcasing independence. I love platforming people who write over on Substack. And I like making fun of people that are trying to come after us and censor what we're trying to say, think, and do. And steer that narrative management on behalf of the Atlantic. We see you. Yes, we see you. All right. One more time, I'm going to put up the donate links. If you guys could really hook us up, I really appreciate it so much. This week on INN, we're talking about Crab we're not going to be here next Sunday night. It's Christmas Eve night. And we're going to let you guys be with your families, and we're going to be with ours. We do plan to be here on New Year. Actually, I think it's Christmas Day Eve, like the 25th is next Sunday, right? Or is it? Yeah.
Okay.
24th.
Something like that.
24th is next Sunday. The 31st is the following Sunday. We will not be here for that. We may do the 1st. If Politically Homeless does not go on New Year's Day night, we may shift on and do Monday night instead of Sunday for that night. I don't know. We'll see. Or we'll take 2 weeks off. We could certainly use a break. The plan already is to take the month of January off. So we're not going to be back for a little while, but we're going to do boats. We're going to be back in about 25 minutes or so to do boats. Later on this week, there is going to be no American Tradition. Jesse's voice is still rough. Crab is talking about going live tomorrow night for Politically Homeless at 9 o'clock and to talk about the reduction in body count that the IDF keeps revising downward as to how many civilians were murdered on 10/7. It's now down to 695 from the original number of 1,400, revised down to 1,200, revised now down to 695 because of all the soldiers that were also murdered that day. It's not that 1,200 weren't killed. Yep. It's just that only 695 were civilians. 30, by the way, I saw were children, even though somebody else said only one of them were. I didn't know that. But so maybe New Year's Day Eve, but otherwise we're not going to be back probably till about February. We're going to be back for boats in 20 minutes, so come back for that for sure. But to continue the week, INN News on Wednesday.
Put the link in chat.
INN News on Wednesday. These guys are going to do that. Reef and Colin going to do INN News. Thursday, there's no show. Friday, we've got Angel in the afternoon at 7. And then Snow Himbo is probably going to do a gaming stream Friday night. And that's going to be it for the week until Christmas. So we just have a couple of shows this week. We're going to have a relatively light week, would be my guess. Plus, we're going to have Misty, of course, on TNT Radio. Listen and watch her now on tntradio.live every day, 5 o'clock Eastern. And we did a Palestine Unity stream on Thursday night with Connor Freeman and Yeti. Right, Connor Freeman and Yeti did a Palestine Unity stream on INN. Go check that out. It's an hour long. Yeti's camera was crappy, but the conversation was excellent. Connor really dug it, and I really appreciate it and thank him for coming. And I really am enjoying these anti-war collaborations.
He just looked like he was filming from an undisclosed location that we had to blur, you know?
Right?
Like it was like Cigarette Man from the X-Files. Just had to be the voice, you know?
I love it.
Like
but yeah, the plan is to do them every 2 weeks. The next one is going to be on the 28th of December, and it's going to be Rob Durden and Dave DeCamp. And we've got these scheduled all throughout January and into early February, and we've got other people that also want to sign on. So likely we're going to continue this. Hopefully Palestine will stop being bombed at some point, and we can shift the focus of this Unity stream to something else that we align on, whether that's Julian Assange or legalization of cannabis or any other issues that we align with the anti-war people on. Or we can talk about geopolitical issues that we align on, which there are plenty abound. Like
and
those guys
we'll convert them to our dirty, dirty communism.
Yep.
You know?
That's right, Forest Mommy. Are you listening?
Yep.
All right. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. I'm going to go take a bong hit and do the bathroom thing, and we'll be back for boats, and we'll have some fun.
Intermission, everyone.
But thank you to everyone, hey, if this is our last stream of the year, I love you all. I appreciate you all. And keep supporting independent media. We need it more than ever. And fuck censorship.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep listening to what little boats have to tell you. Good night, everyone. See you in a bit.
Ciao, baby.
Indie News Network, collaborative family of independent content creators. Co-hosted normally by me, Indy. I'm founder and editor of Indie Left News and Indie Media Today. I got Reef Breland sitting next to me.
At Kennedy News.
Is Andrew Rivera on The Handsome Cynic?
Politics is survival.
My name is Jesse Jett.
It's American Tradition.
What's up, Space Monkeys? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden.
I mostly make art for INN.
Big Man Crab Joe. Keep up those great videos.
Hey guys, it's Yeti. Coming at you.
Hello, my name is Lucy from Blue Moon Red Wine.
This is Chris Legion.
Keep fighting that good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Who are these people?
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?